this content is for kids.
It's not for kids.
No, isn't that what I said?
No, it's not for kids. If you are 13 years or younger, this is not for you. Do I have to kill somebody in order to actually make that point across?
No, man, you don't have to kill no one.
Wait a second.
No.
We return to our planet. The High Court may well sentence you to torture.
He likes movies. We like movies. Septum Sin versus the world. 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 I'd buy that for $1.
Greetings, you're watching Septum Sin vs. the World. I'm Septum Sin. We're back, baby, for 2022, and we're starting a new program out of the old. So I'm going to try and reformat some of these movie reviews, and I'm going to do more of an in-depth analysis of the films. I'm going to start just with my basic review, and then we're going to dive in deep afterwards. Our first film for this is Dante's Shadow of Sin by Dakota Ray. Now, we have here the special edition DVD version, but you can also watch it on YouTube. I will put links to how to buy some of those films. I think it's on Store Envy. Or if you want, you can watch it for free. And then if you like it when you watch it for free, go ahead and get a copy. Support the director. It's always good to do that. The extras on the film comes with a director interview and the trailers for all the rest of his films. Now, there's no menus or anything. It just kind of runs from one to the other, so keep that in mind. There are two versions of this. This is the more expensive version. It's a little bit more solid. I had both versions. I did give my other copy to a friend. I try my best to spread the word, get more people into these directors and creators. So it's kind of different people that get some of these if it's the same creator. So I'm really hoping this person, and I think this person will like it, they'll also be just as into it as I've been. So let's go ahead and dig into the plot. Dante is this young man living with the memory of the woman that he killed many years ago. He has a friend, Mahogany, whose father just recently passed, so he's invited Dante over to the family home for a night of debauchery, drugs, and alcoholism. Fun stuff. But Dante doesn't know that Mahogany has in store for him a little bit more than just a night of casual self-destruction. So this film has a very similar feel to many of the Dakota Ray films, starting with American Antichrist, with this overall feeling of nihilism, the self-destruction, the general darkness surrounding it, the filters that were used. This, however, feels like a much more solid narrative. Now, the narrative has been getting stronger as the films have gone up. The films, like the last couple, have been pretty strong, but this one I feel like is the tightest, whereas a lot of the other ones still had that narration by Dante's character, well, not Dante, Dakota Ray's character in the film much throughout. This one doesn't rely on that as much. You get to see it through the actions and just the plot laid out by the characters. I really do like this. I like how the format is moving forward, and I look forward to see the evolution as it goes. The film, as always, carries a high value in cinematography and production. For what's used to make these films, I feel that the well-placed props, the makeup, and of course this one has that blue haze. I mean, what you're seeing here is pretty much how the film is. I mean, most of these later films, they have that color filter on. I feel like this is the most artistic piece of these films and what sets him apart from many others in the business. And the music, well, the music is really good. in conveying what needs to be done. There are two main pieces that kind of have that metal feel to them at the beginning and at the end, with a pretty nice soundtrack in the middle. I'm not sure whether I would listen to this on its own, but I do know people who probably would, and for that, I could say check it out, especially if you're into that sort of like kind of dark metal feel. So I try not to judge whether I like the film or not in here, but more who should see these films. Every film has an audience, and this film is no different. So for those who are easily triggered by satanic imagery, nihilism, sexual imagery, portrayal of dead animals, drug use, and violence, should probably stay clear of this film. You've been warned. If you require your film to be a straightforward, fast-paced piece, then I would say this film is also not for you. Now, on the other hand, I have a cat that really likes working with my reviews here. But on the other hand, if you are one of these fans of shot-on-video horror, if you like those types of things, if you are a nihilist or a poet at heart, you'll like these films. If you have a love of the genre and you like to see where it can go, I think this is also really well. You like a good dark story. These are themes I think they'll keep you coming back again and again to this creator. So with that, we're coming to the analysis side of the video. Now this is a new series. It's my first time doing this, so bear with me, but there are spoilers. So I would say if you do not want spoilers for this film, steer clear, stop now, see the film, come back. If you're okay with spoilers and maybe you're looking for a more in-depth look to say, is this for me? Feel free to go ahead, but you've been warned. Now let's take a closer look and see how things go. So we get started with this metal background and the intros, which is pretty standard. Though you gotta love some of the additions with the puppets and the absinthe, which that drink is reflected a lot by the director. And if you see a lot from the director, he really loves the drink in its many forms. I guess very Edgar Allan Poe-ish when you go with that connection. Then we have this front seat to the murder of the girl Dante kills and buries at the house. We'll return to this a little bit later. Taking a picture as a memento, it's just a classic serial killer trope, making one wonder if Dante doesn't have other bodies buried down the line. So most of the films are divided in chapters, with the first one here being Dante's Switchblade Romance. We cut to Dante in his kind of normal, kind of creepy-ish place, treated to the norm when it comes to these types of films. And then you have his narration, like that self-narration that's usually there, and you get to see again how much he loves his, absinthe. I in particular like the animatronic skeleton, which does set up a rather kind of demonic connection through the film. And there's a lot of symbolism here at work, with the cut of the spider, and also him ripping that doll head off. And you see the doll coming back later with sort of like demon fangs, if you look later in the film. And my guess is that this really reflects the woman that he's killed, this victim. The absinthe in particular is amusing with this devil depicted on the label. And we get to see this, like, I think it's 85 degrees or something like that, seen again and again. So I think I'd go for this stuff actually myself. Even reading up on the small bit later, he's even looking at a book talking about absinthe. The other drug shown in here, which is prominent, is cocaine. There are other drugs in the film, but those two are the most prominent shown out, at least for Dante when he's concerned. So he receives this package from his friend with one of the cooler, creepier dolls I've seen in some of these films. The doll is cursed and even talks to him briefly. The invitation is done on this kind of paper with this really messy writing, but it's inviting him to a night of drugs and alcohol, and of course you can't really pass that stuff up, right? So Dante picks up his friend Mahogany for this, which he proceeds just immediately unload on just how much he hates the world, and especially his father, and that his father's accidental death was probably a little bit less than an actual accident. So then we're getting into the chapter, Welcome to the Boleskine House, my special place in hell. A lot of the time I feel that we find these characters in kind of a mirror of purgatory. And this house reflects that, with kind of the darkness, the suffering going on, the various demonic atmosphere with the puppets and whatnot. As they make themselves at home, they drink, they do drugs, with, of course, added satanic imagery laced on top. I love the cuts they make to various objects, the demons, and of course the pizza, which kind of looked good until they put ranch sauce on it, but some people like ranch on their pizza. And I figure that Dante's friend Mahogany does. He's really messy with it. He's kind of like on it, spreading it all over the place. So we're also introduced to Mahogany's grandmother here, who is the target of his rage and mistreatment. She's kind of just torturing her. She can't do much. She can't move from the wheelchair. And I feel that this is probably one of the weakest moments that Mahogany has, where he's kind of tripping over his words a little bit. And for the most part, it's really kind of fun, manic performance. This is probably one of the weaker portions of it, but it does lay out the scene and, again, lay out this guy's hatred for pretty much everything. So now we're at the next chapter, Under the Spell of Sadistic Magic. We get to know Dante's hatred of the living, including his hatred for animals. He visits the grave of the woman he kills and hides his cocaine stash inside the body of this rabbit that he kills and hangs from a tree. I usually don't like animal violence in movies, and I still don't, but it's more tolerable than others of its type. I find it funny, actually, that from that tree in the same spot you see like a little rabbit doll hanging from like a little noose from the tree, so it's kind of interesting how that is. And with the drugs and the absinthe and everything else involved, it's hard to say what's real, what's imagined, what's hallucinated. It's just, in general, it's a bit of a haze. Mahogany, at this point, reveals his plot to the audience. He's got HIV, he knows he's going to die, but he wants to go out on top by killing Dante, himself, and pretty much everybody in the house. Mahogany is a good opposite to Dante. As I said, he has a lot of manic energy, whereas Dante is more depressed and brooding. So they kind of clash, and you can see that they are set up to clash, with just the differences of personality. Who will win at this point, we can't really say. So Mahogany shows up, shows that the grandmother isn't the only victim. He's also got this younger girl tied up to the tub, and he likes to torture her as well. The videos being shown to the grandmother at points of this are mainly him abusing this girl. And this shows the kind of twisted and messed up individual Dante is, if you haven't figured it out already. So he's going off to continue to abuse this girl, and he sets up to say, Dante, take care of my grandmother, but whatever you do, don't go to the tree house out back. So Dante, of course, shows why he's not quite the best babysitter in the world. He ends up killing the grandmother by accident, and then distracting Mahogany with this. He goes over to the treehouse, and he finds that it's surrounded by demons and spells, which you later find out were used to try and curse the man. But sadly for Mahogany, Dante is recognized more as one of their own than he is. I feel this is one of those more artistic scenes. So much going in the background, a lot of different objects, very creepy. That treehouse is a great setup. I really enjoyed this feature. So while he's out, Mahogany just makes his move. He's lacing Dante's vodka with these industrial laxatives. He's hoping to make him literally shit himself to death, which we get to see that kind of recur later on in the film. So the next chapter, Dante destroying what little is left of her. So Dante comes to the realization that he'll be cursed by the ghost of his victim until he properly destroys the body. So he digs her up, and he does just that. He smashes it and burns it. And it seems he is here not just to party, but he's also here to take care of some business. That being the woman he killed and Mahogany as well. The scene is quite cathartic. You can feel the tables maybe about to turn on Mahogany. At the very strong hints as we get closer and closer to that final confrontation. Now Mahogany finds a dead rabbit, and the rabbit tells him, hey, dude, Dante hid his cocaine stash inside me. You can take it, and you can just enjoy yourself. But he's going to be PO'd knowing that you took his cocaine. Well, so Mahogany, of course, does all the cocaine. And he says, well, I slept well for the first time in my life, and then he ends up, it seems like the cocaine was laced with some stuff itself, because he has his own bouts. Of course, the rabbit still remains in kind of the drug-filled haze, taunting him, telling him Dante is going to try and kill him, and doing these things. And of course, Dante is, in the meantime, preparing his own confrontation in a scene with a severed head of a goat. And the goat is telling him, it's time. Of course, the goat being more of that lovely satanic imagery. So, the next chapter, Dante, seeing through the eyes of a goat, is really Dante and Mahogany preparing for their final confrontation. The imagery is much like the characters involved becoming more intoxicated and overloaded. Dante, however, who is not so sickly, managed to get the upper hand, and we finally see the conflict with Mahogany being taken out with very little fanfare. So our final chapter, Burying the Past for Good. We wrap up the movie with Dante finally disposing of the bodies and destroying the past, including the house, as music ends and he disappears into the ether. So that was Dante's Shadow of Sin. Most like a lot of the past, there is quite a lot of things to take in with Dakota Ray. And I was very glad to catch this multiple times before doing this review. This has so many different things, so many flashes. You've got the torture, the dead animals, the drug use, the nihilism. all of that just comes together to form one giant ticking time bomb of just negativity and darkness. The biggest difference with this being that all the distractions were never once lost. Well, we never got lost in the distractions when it comes to the story. It always knew where it was going to come back to. I always know what's up with Mahogany, and I know that Dante's on to him even early on, and we all know that the stakes are up when the inevitable face-off takes place. Watching Dante's Shadow of Sin is a surreal experience and a nightmare I'm sure to catch again, and hopefully you will too. So I hope you've enjoyed this first turn at this format. So tell me what you think in the little comments below. Is this a hard-working experience? But I'm hoping that it paid off for you. I hope you will join me next time when I cover another not-so-well-known film, and hopefully will one day gain the status of a cult classic. This has been Septum Sin, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.